There we go. So, hi everyone. I'm here. This is the sixth episode of the Hawkesbury Social Podcast. And I'm very lucky this week because I had read this young lady's profile, but I didn't get into the nitty gritty, interesting, amazing stuff actually until last night when I was building your profile on my website for everybody to know a little bit about you. I thought it was cool, your fact list that you had with the picture of your daughter, I assume. So I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I do. It will be available on Wednesday, June 25th in 2 days, Eastern Standard Time. So I'll let Shauna introduce herself and then we'll get into the chatting and the, the storytelling here. So
Right.
go for it, Shauna. Hi.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, hi. So I'm Shauna, and look, I was born and raised in the States, in Washington State, actually, and then traveled around a bit. Landed in California before I moved to Australia. So I've been in Australia. I moved here in 2009. So I've been here for quite a while now.
Wow.
And look, yeah, it was an easy transition, to be honest, to live here. It's not a hard place to live.
Good.
And look, I'm a yoga teacher and I'm a women's embodiment mentor. And I've got a husband and a couple of kids and yeah, live the life of my dreams really. So yeah. But
Yeah,
it's been a process
that's
in
great.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a story behind how you met your husband, I think, right? I think I read something special, so I'll let you tell it like it is.
Yeah. Well, I actually had always wanted to go to Australia for a long time, like since I was quite young. I'd always felt drawn, and my mom and I went on a holiday to Brisbane, and we were going for 2 weeks, and a friend of mine had said, "Look, you should really go to Byron Bay one night. Like it's this really awesome place." And this is kind of back in the day when Byron Bay isn't the way that it is now, because it's quite popularized and it's where everyone kind of goes and everyone knows about it. But I said, "Okay, I'll try this place out." And yeah, and so my mom and I were there on New Year's Eve just for the evening, and I was walking on the streets of Byron Bay, and my husband, who's now my husband, came up to me from behind. He hadn't even seen my face, and he said to me, "Have you tried the fairy floss?" And I just looked at him and I was like, "The fairy floss." And he pointed to the van and was like, the fairy floss. And I said, "Oh, in my American accent, cotton candy." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah." And that's how we met. And then we had a chat and we hung out, him and his maid and my mom and I, and we, went out and they had a drink and we just hit it off. And then the end of the story is I left the next day. He went back to Sydney the next day, and then he called me every day for the next 3 months until I decided to come back here. And there you go. End of story. 17 years later, here we are. So,
Yeah, that happens a lot, with everybody. So, well, not that lovely, I don't think, but like there's always it's interesting how things can play out sometimes when you're on vacation, especially. I know a lot of the young couples nowadays, they go away and they meet people from right in their own country, state, or even, nearby. And lots of love stories from that, which is fine. Totally cool. That's beautiful. So there you go. And now you guys have two kids, a daughter and a son. Okay. Your daughter's cute. I saw the picture. I put that one. Yeah. I have a 14-year-old daughter as well. Not by,
beautiful.
she's not my biological because I married my husband after he was with women for many years and realized that that wasn't for him.
Yes.
Unfortunately for
Yeah.
them, but we've been now 8 years together and married for three. So we had to have our wedding in our backyard during COVID with restrictions. Very, very late into COVID. So we were supposed to get married like three different dates, and it was like this COVID thing was just not going anywhere. Like we realized it, and it isn't. It's still here, really. We're just not talking about it as much. So that's basically what happened. We got married it was a beautiful day. Of course, the hottest day of the summer. That's the way it is when you get married and you're in dress clothes. So we had a big white tent in the backyard. It's in the back of this house, actually. And on July 1st, we're moving across the street on an angle, literally. So our house is here. And then so you'd be like walking this way and you can see it's a new house built.
Yeah.
We're lucky we're staying across the street from two of our best friends that are couples.
Wow.
Most of the people on this little street here, I find that we look out for each other as neighbors and such. So it's gonna be nice. Everything's new. The way I describe it is nobody's ever used my toilet before, and I love that. For those of us
That's
who,
nice to put it. Yeah.
yeah, like the first person to shower and use the sink, and it's nice. Everything's clean and fresh, and I like that. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
to keep it that way. But Vinny's been here for about 9 years, and these houses are a little bit older, so we had an opportunity because I have neuropathy in my feet to be on a one level. So we were greatly offered that. And I was so surprised. So we're going all through a lot of transition right now, but I'm still managing to get this in. But I got ran down last Wednesday and I pushed it. So I'm really happy that we were able to make it work. So from the list that I saw, so you had specifically said that you did 500 registered hours as a yoga teacher. Wow, that's a lot of different. Like I'm sure you've done yoga in many different backgrounds and different scenarios. It's something that I wish was more popular. We're in a more rural area. I lived in
Mm,
Toronto for 18 years almost, so
mm,
I call it that because I spent every summer 2 months with my grandmother here, and then once I was old enough to leave my province, I moved to Ontario, and I just left Toronto in 2019. It just became too busy. I wanted to slow my life down, get married, hopefully if they had a kid or if we could some way have a family, and it seems to have worked out that way. So I'm happy with it. And I'm very happy to hear those kinds of stories from others like you. Like we used an app to meet with a GPS
mm.
locator that tells you how far you are or whatever. But it's the only guy that I ever talked to that didn't ask me about sex. So that's why I liked him.
Ah,
You
cool.
know what I mean?
What did he ask you then?
Like the first question was what isn't how big are you? Like I swear to God, gay guys need to learn a new line.
Yeah.
It's not
So what
romantic,
was
guys.
his
I'm
first
saying
line
it out
then? What
loud.
was his first line? What did he say?
I don't know that there was a line, but it took a while for him to really get interested in getting back to me faster. I thought he played a little bit of hard to get, I told him. But on the internet, you kind of have to take some and lose some, right? When you're looking for love. And
Mm,
I don't know. I came down for a weekend here from Cornwall, which is about 3 hours away, I suppose, maybe less. Anyways, our towns are close enough that the website showed us that we had these places in like close, in common and so on. But yeah, so I came down for a weekend and he drove me back after the weekend when I was supposed to go home. We had planned a certain time and I didn't say anything, but I didn't know in my head that I wanted to go back yet. I wanted to
mm,
know more about him, so him and I went to all the way back. I took them out to a buffet there that my grandmother used to manage when she was alive because she died from ALS a few years ago back. So yeah, I took them there and then took me home and I got my bag and I said, "Do you mind if I go get more clothes and come back with you?" I didn't say for until when. And then he's like, "Mate, of
mhm.
course." So I went back and then I never went back.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's it, right? Like I guess that's kind of people do know, even those that fall out of a relationship may still love each other very much, but like we go through ups and downs and different cycles, I guess, in our lives. And it's a balancing act for me, I find, with anxiety managing it. It makes me very what's the word? We become, I guess, finalement, like in French, we say that because for me, it's a word that's like, I've had enough of this. Like, give me a break now. Anxiety attacks, nervousness, and all that. Like,
Mm.
and then, like the blister packs of medication and all that. Like, it's just so, I mean, I want to talk to you more when I saw your profile because I was like, I want to know if Shauna can teach me how to transition into some type of a meditation, but slowly so that it's not like, oh God, I have to do this exercise now, like I don't want it to be that type of thing, but just somewhere that you can go and turn everything off or get up before everybody's up. That's what I do when I'm writing my book is I get up in the morning because I can't hear any trucks or anything outside or, like, and I drink my coffee and I write. But sometimes I think if I were to have a yoga mat, maybe if I got up, I'd fall asleep on it. I don't know. but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've done yoga in the city, like hot yoga, and it is beneficial. It makes you feel good after. So
Yep.
I'd love you to talk about your retreats because I mean, even if you're in Australia, I mean, there's so many people that I know, and a lot of my community that likes to go down to Australia. And I mean, for any couple, really, it would just be a lovely experience. And I saw some of the pictures of the resort and the packages that you had, and the prices were quite reasonable considering what you were getting.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I'm just letting everybody know that when you do go on the webpage after to look at this podcast, you'll find all the links, and I put a few different ones under different pictures, buttons. So some will take you to be able to register with Shauna, and then there's, I guess, like a subscription letter, maybe, and then like how they can get in contact with you. I think I did that, and I think I did one other one. It was contact dash one. I think that's the right one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so everybody can use that to their advantage. Please contact Shauna if you want to work with her virtually or if you have a plan to go to Australia and you can meet up with her. I highly recommend it. Even before we get through this interview, I read over her profile again this morning, and it's a very accomplished life you've been able to live. And I'm happy for you because it's so hard to be a woman nowadays in this world. I think for some others that have finally started to stand their ground a little bit in the media, if you know what I mean. Like you see more and more now that this is who I am, and if you don't like it, well, and I like that attitude. It's just that we need to apply it in more areas of our life than being famous.
Mm.
Right? So I always said that if I ever did a podcast, I didn't want it to be like stiffy or, like in the mud or like very uptight. Just kind of casually have a chat and let people listen in. If they're having their coffee in the morning or a drink at the end of the evening, whatever it may be, hopefully we are somewhat interesting for you guys. So I'm gonna look down through. I'll let you continue on because I have a tendency to go on. I wanted to ask you about the. Okay, so you've. This is what I found very interesting. Actually, I remember now. The groups that you've been working with in particular are somewhat of a challenge, I guess we should say, or more of a challenge area, and not just in Australia. You've specialized in some of the more tougher areas to go. I think that's what I got from what I read. So do you want to, am I on the right track with that? I
Yeah. I
see.
mean,
I mean, some of the, like the therapeutic group homes and things like that, I can imagine you probably found some, maybe kids that were a bit bruised or broken, need some help or love and attention, which we find everywhere. So, how do you
yeah.
compare that to having a tranquil advance in the woods over the weekend,
Mm.
compared?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, even though I have a really happy life that, I love now. My life was not always like that. I came from quite you could call it a pretty traumatic upbringing. And so I always had sort of a love for people and wanting to get to know why people do the things they do, the way that they think, what drives them. And so that took me into university where I studied social work, and then by studying social work and I got a degree in social work, I was doing some pretty wild things. So working in, group homes. I actually lived in group homes with girls, so six teenage girls between the ages of 12 and 18 when I was only about 21 years old. And I would live with them by myself and take them to school every day and teach them to cook. But these were girls that had come out of gangs and
Okay.
were hardcore. So
Now,
it was
did you do this back in the States, this part of your
yeah,
training? Okay. I just wanted to confirm
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
because I guess Canada and the US are a bit more, I don't know, problematic, I would say, when it comes to what's on the street and available to people. Even though
agree with that.
it may come from somewhere else, it's just more popular with us, party drugs and things of that nature. I did in my
That's it.
past. So these girls that you're working with, they're not far from your age. I imagine that's
Yeah.
pretty emotional, and you must have to have quite a backbone to, you know, take yourself away from, I don't know, like I have a hard time not to hug everybody when I see somebody that, like just not treated well and have had it
Mm,
really rough. And, like you just meet
mm.
so many people that can be like in that situation and they're so kind. So these young girls so you would live at is it kind of a residence for the girls? And then like there's a couple of
Yeah.
you on staff, like that type of thing?
Yeah, so it was a house that they lived in, and I would live there for 4 days a week, and then I would get 3 days off. So I would start on a Sunday morning and I would be with them until Wednesday night, and then I leave on a Wednesday night and I come back on a Sunday morning. So it was sort of like for half the week. Yeah, and I would just do all the things that I guess, well, now that I'm a mother, I think mothering is easier than what I had to deal with there. It was actually,
Yeah.
if I'm really honest, it was scary a lot of the time. And I think, like, you're saying, oh, I just want to hug someone who's been through that. And I think there was a part of me that had compassion for them. And then a lot of me, it was actually the worst job I could have done because it hardened me and it made me be like, oh, I've got to keep my walls up or else I'm going to get really seriously injured. And there were some violent times. And I think that almost the violence really, in some ways, just made me go to like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why
And
am
of
I here? Like, why
course,
am I choosing this?
this
Yeah,
was
it
towards
was,
you, all right? On rough days, of course, girls, they're always going to have their rough days, men or women that are going through, especially if they're withdrawing from something or other. That's the worst when it gets like to the nearly the end of it and they shake and, they don't want to be
mm,
cuddled at that point.
yeah, totally.
I know it firsthand because I did all that in my 20s and I got out just before it was too late. So I take that with a grain of salt, and I believe that I'm still here because Mr. Man upstairs is not ready for me yet. Obviously, because I've had many a chance and many of situations that weren't so good. So
Mm,
you do find yourself getting desensitized because I remember helping out a friend to stay with me, or like some of these would visit from similar group homes. You meet people when you're partying and during the day you hang out with or whatever goes with that. And it just became a vicious cycle, like naloxone kits all the time and like, cleaning up after I didn't even want to go there, but and every time you help somebody, then you lose a friend and you feel like you lost everything that you just gave up yourself for them to go and feel better at least a little bit for a little while even. And then they it happened to a friend of mine who I was really trying because he was a young guy and I knew that he didn't want to be the way he was addicted to heroin, I think it was, or right now it's synthetic here mostly that they get into, which is worse to control. But when he passed away, I was angry because he had spent 3 months for stealing the motorcycles, but the electric ones. What are they called? Scooters. Uh, And he stole it from a mother of a gang member that he had no idea who he had taken this from. So he got
Mm,
shot 3 times, and they got him to the hospital, and he was in there for 3 months, and they recuperated him. He stayed on life support for a while, and then he woke up, and they got him doing everything. He got out after 1 day. I don't even know if he was out for 3 hours, Shauna. And my friend said he met up with his girlfriend that always is the instigator. But like I said, he has his own brain too. And by then it should have been clear because he was out of the hospital and off the shit for at least 3 months. But he got so high that he overdosed.
mm,
So I can see and I can understand when you say that. And this is where I guess you don't want to get too close either, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen in the long run. But how do you do your job if you start to care about somebody just a little tiny bit more? Maybe you see something in their eye or a light that nobody else sees, and I'm just wondering, how do like, I guess, disconnect yourself from that and then keep going if something does happen?
mm. I mean, I think that I always loved the girls, you know, I love the
Mm,
girls that were there. And I've always really, I mean, I always had a really pure heart. I really did genuinely want to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. But I guess if you're going to make a difference in someone's life, they've got to want to make the difference more, because you're not going to change their lives. They are going to
yeah,
change their lives. It's going to inspire them to do that. And so I think that it got to a point for me where I realized I couldn't actually stay open anymore. I couldn't keep doing this because it was hurting me because I couldn't, I couldn't
it's
I couldn't keep loving them and watching them making the same mistakes. And then it became like a boundary issue for me
yeah,
going, this is unhealthy for me. And
yep,
I just got to the point where that's where I was like, when I went to Australia, I'm like, get me as far away from social work as I can possibly go. Because I don't know if you read this as well, but I worked in a male maximum security prison.
yes, I
And when I
did.
was working in, yeah, I would interview these men. My job was to interview them about the crimes that they committed. And it was I just got to a point where some of the things that they would tell me, they would just look at me in the face with just a straight face. And I would just, my insides would be turned inside out. And I want to just start crying my eyes out, and I
Yeah,
couldn't. I just had brave face. And I just realized that is not how I want to live my life. And that's not how I'm going to live my life. And that's why I got out of social work because I spent too long of my life pretending like everything is okay and pretending like I can be strong and I can handle it. And I can, but it's eating me away and it's not gonna make me happy, you know?
that's
So
the thing.
yeah.
Like, you have to have your heart on your sleeve when you go to school for social work, in my opinion. But
Mm,
I mean, you deserve at some point to say, is this safe for me? And how is it affecting me long term? I
absolutely.
mean, personally, thought that comes to mind when I see that, and I have a 14-year-old daughter myself. In rural areas, there's sometimes not the biggest of events and things to do. So these people end up, you know, doing stuff to be out of boredom a lot of the time. That or self-medicating because they can't get the therapy that they deserve or, get the therapist that they need or medicine, family doctor even. I know here in North America, and I can say that about the States because I know it's happening there. If it's happening in Canada, it's happening in the States. And I mean, I take an anti-anxiety med. I lowered it last week because it was giving me hyperhidrosis. And for 5 years, I was over sweating and I was so fed up. I felt like a woman in a man's body having menopause. Like, that's how much I was sweating. Like, I had to bring my own towels or a box of tissues with me to events. So
Bless.
in the summertime,
Yeah.
like, no hugs. Don't hug me. Just, hi. Like, I remember at one point my daughter-in-law said, "Oh, your hugs are always wet." So
Oh, oh.
I was so happy when we lowered it. Now, it was hard, I must say, to come off of. And I said to my husband, I don't want to ever have to go through coming off of that at a high dose quickly because it made me feel like I was just, I don't know, I couldn't sit still. Like
Mm,
and that's the thing. Like, I want to say this out loud. I hope doctors don't hate me for saying this, but if you find that you can manage your anxiety for any way without using medication nowadays, please do it. That's my opinion. I don't know if yours like Shauna, I'm not saying to people that have like, three personalities or whatever we're battling, like any trauma of any sort. Because it starts with trauma, this mental health thing, at some point in your life. And
mm,
that's kind of where I'm meeting you here now because I'm thinking if you hadn't have got out of that, I don't know. And that's the thing. If I hadn't have got out, stopped helping people, in the end, I lost my own place to live because I was trying to help people so much that whoever I was renting from, they couldn't put up with some of the bullshit that they would end up, and I wouldn't know about it until, you know, and
mm,
you can't help anybody, like you said, unless they want to be helped. And you have to, I mean, I know you were a social worker at heart to have done that, but it's nice to be a social worker somewhere where you can social work, not be a, today it's like being a babysitter
mm,
because these dealers have the run of our streets. Our kids and our everyone and their grandmother is smoking something these days for pain, for mental health, and it leads down with a vicious cycle, really. I used to have migraines and I remember marijuana for that, and it's legal in Canada, so I can say that anyways, but I didn't like it. I used to cough until I was blue in the face,
mm,
and finally they told me about the pill. 2 milligrams, I never had a migraine again. So, there it is. Like, you have meds that, like, fix you and there's no side effects. Like, I was a bit tired for a couple of weeks, I guess, before it got in my system, like, those kind of meds are. And it just takes so long. And if you change meds or anything like that, like, you have to restart kind of because it takes so long to get in your blood. And I keep trying to tell people this, like, that tell me, oh, that doesn't work, or I took that and it didn't make me feel good. And I say to people, like, my doctor, for instance, he said, I get patients, they come back the next day, they're in a panic, and they're like, well, my anxiety is not gone, or my panic attacks are not gone, and I just started my antidepressant. It takes 4 weeks minimum. If you're lucky,
mm,
2 weeks to help you. But I mean, you need 4 to 6 weeks. People need to be patient. That's the problem with mental health and the people that need like the chemical balance, like
mm,
so like when people in group homes are on different kinds of meds like that, do they I mean, because I remember it being very dangerous with having medications on board while I was partying in my life, you know?
mm,
Like these
mm,
girls that you're treating, are they're obviously all have their own whatever their fix is, and then is it up to you as a social worker, or is there a nurse at this group home that's like helping with the medication side of things, or is it a bit different in the
Mm.
States? I'm not sure compared to here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking a long time ago, now, like now that I think about it,
That's
I mean,
true.
I graduated high school 25 years ago, right? So, I mean, we're talking, within 5 years, post that, right? So 20
Yeah.
years ago. And yeah, we were allowed to give them their medication. You had to have someone there with you, and we had keys, to attach to us at all time and things like that. The girls that were in the group home were off whatever hardcore drugs. I mean, most of them, meth was the drug of choice at that
Yeah.
time when with the girls with
Okay.
and yeah, we did
That's a hard
NA, yeah, a lot, but they were all on medication, some sort of like sleeping pills at night, and anti-anxiety or antidepressants or
yeah.
antipsychotics, name it. I don't know that I was really across all of that. I really knew the impact. I don't think I was as present then as I am now. So I think
Yeah.
now I would probably be more attention to that stuff. But I feel like every girl was on some kind of medication to try and deal with. I mean, the young girls living in a group. What I mean, like that'd be hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's hard to see. And it was hard for me to see people younger than me going through this. Like, I wanted to just, it's in my nature. I'm from an island. I'm from Newfoundland in Canada. So my island isn't even attached to Canada. We're like 225 people in my hometown. Everybody knows everybody's underwear size. Like we know when you're baking bread or you're taking a poop or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's small like that, like you turn around and everybody is helping one another and it's lovely, really. I like it. And people ask me all the time, why don't you want to live back there? And I'm like, it's just for people that are a little bit more laid back, I think, than me. I'm not that laid. I'm more laid back now, but I like being able to go to the city when I need to. For
Yeah,
clothing or whatever, or a specialist or whatever. But yeah, that's a letdown of social work, and I almost took that. I questioned myself a couple of times, but with my anxiety, I can't detach myself from that each case. And if you can't do that, and you know it, it's probably not the best field
mm,
because you withhold that, right? You keep it with you sometimes, and you get these pictures. I'm sure you have visuals from your job, and it's a long time ago.
mm,
Some of the girls that you may, have a bit of a better relationship with, they're letting you in a bit more or something like that. And then all of a sudden, something triggers them or they overdose on a bad batch. And then you're like, you lost this case that you've been working on. I don't mean to call it a person a case, but there's a lot to managing a person's mental health and health when other drugs are involved, right?
definitely.
That's the biggest issue, I suppose. And I thank God every day that I had the strength. I just got on the train, I messaged my aunt. I didn't even have enough for my train ticket, I don't think. And I said, I'm getting on a train to your house and I'm never going back. And I didn't.
Mm,
It's been 10 years.
mm.
So I don't know what else to ask you. There's so many interesting things on your list what's your favorite fun fact that's on your website? Some of them are pretty
Oh
interesting.
God. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember what my fun facts are. Just point one out for me, and then I
Okay,
could probably talk on it.
I'm gonna do it. I have to. I was just like, I have to put that on my website. I don't know if they'll be, they may have to have some blur over them, but so here we go. Let's see. Fun facts. I played soccer to pay for college and nearly made the 2000 USA Olympic team as a goalkeeper. And that was the first one that I read, and I really wanted to go through this a little bit, a couple of them, because that's a big deal, especially in the States, like, and in Canada, like Olympics is a big deal. So
Yeah, yeah.
how did that all come? Like, so you played soccer in college, Do
Well, I
they?
played soccer in high school first,
Hey,
and in high school is where well, I did high school and then I did Premier League and then I also played Olympic development. So I trained for the Olympics from a really young age.
okay.
So that was the training to go to the Olympics. And then what happened, I trained for the Olympics but didn't make the Olympic team. So I don't know if you know anything about soccer, but Hope Solo, who ended up being the American goalkeeper for like 17 years, we trained together, growing up.
Oh,
And I was never going to be I was never going to be as good as she was. She was always going to be better than me and I was able to accept that and realize okay, there's other things for me in life than, sitting on a bench or trying to make that team. So that's when I then got an offer to play in college, which is what paid for my college was I played soccer to pay for my college degree. And that's
yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of
That's always
how
great.
it happened.
So you get scouts obviously that come to the college or high school sometimes, I imagine. For soccer, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's amazing. I mean, I wouldn't even be you should totally be like happy about that because even to be in the same I don't know, category as somebody
Mm,
is enough, like you made it that far, like you said,
mm,
if you and sometimes you just have to stand back and say, well, this is not what I'm perfect at, but you could be like amazing at anything. And I have to accept that all the time. I like to do a lot of different things, but I think that this podcast is a bit more therapeutic than I realized it would be. I don't know if you don't have your own podcast yet, right? You definitely need one. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
I'll tell you, on Facebook, you go in some of the rooms like where we met, and like, of course, there's so many beautiful stories that everybody can share. I mean, I don't. You're in Australia, or you were in the States, or if you were in anywhere, as long as the internet works and you have a great story to talk about, and you're a good person, I want to have them on my show. Like, so I think that if ever you have the chance to do a
Mm,
small season and test the waters with it, I think you would be a great person to host a show for sure. And you have a lot of nice things on your website that go hand in hand with that really that you can talk about from a lot of perspectives.
mm.
So we'll keep going down the list here.
Yeah, go for it. Go for
Well, you
it.
already talked about how you met your husband, walking the streets of Byron Bay when he asked, "Have you tried the fairy floss?" That's very cute, actually. It sounds like something like that gay people would say, like fairy floss.
I know. No, that's just what Australia is called cotton candy.
That
We
is
got to
so
use the
cute,
fairy.
actually. I think kids would like cotton candy way more if it was called fairy floss. Tell your husband I saw
Yeah, I will. I
it.
will. I will.
Do you mind explaining to me a bit more about gene keys? Because I don't know a whole lot about gene keys.
Mm.
And I
Um,
just read
I
it
could
and
go on
it's
a
like,
big,
there's a lot, right?
yeah, like, oh gosh, I get really excited about the gene keys because it's really transformed my life in a lot of ways. But essentially, like if I were to try and narrow it down to being really, really basic, it's have you ever heard of human design?
No,
Okay. Well,
I haven't.
it's yeah, it's so if you haven't really heard of human design, it can be a bit tricky. But essentially, what it does is it's when everyone's born, and it's the position of where the sun is, where the moon is, where Venus is, where Mars is, where everything is, and it
Kind of like
basically will
astrology.
tell it kind of, but it's really detailed. So it'll say, well, this is your life's work, and this is what you'll be, this is what your shadow will be over and over and over again. And this is what you'll struggle with over and over again. And these are what your greatest gifts will be. And this is what your highest state is. But you've got 11 different keys that describe that in different areas. So it's like, this is how your body thrives best. And this is the shadow that will hold you back. And then it goes into relationships and they'll say, this is what you will attract over and over and over again in your relationships. And so I think the thing is when you know what your shadows are, and I think of a shadow is like when you try and look and you can't see it because every time you look, it goes away. hiding.
Yeah.
And the gene keys brings the shadows to light. And I don't like to use it as like a negative thing. It's actually just bringing it to light so that you can focus on your gifts, so that you can notice every time you're going into a pattern. And it's so individual. So all the gene keys are very different. So like you would have this full set and it would tell us so much about you and the way that you function best in the world and what makes you thrive and what would hold you back and all that. And so I just love it because I feel like if I would have had this information 20 years ago, God, my life would have been easier because I could have accepted things that I was going through, knowing that was just going to be part of my experience, that no matter what I would have done, that would have been something that I would have been challenged by in my relationships or in my life's work or whatever that is. And I just feel like it's a gift that like when I look at my husband or I look at my kids, I'm like, oh, that's why my son does that, right? Like he's in that pattern and that's the way that he experiences love, right? And then my
Yeah.
daughter's the complete opposite. So it's just like it just brings a lot of things to be like just like it makes me feel like kind of at home. It's like, oh my gosh, something how can this system be so accurate? But it just is. So I get really excited about it.
I know. I understand. I understand what you're saying because, and you know what? We'll have to do a separate podcast on the gene keys, and maybe I'll try it on myself. Yeah, well, you can tell me which cliff I'm gonna drive off. I don't even
Or I
try.
could just tell you what you're amazing at. I could just tell you what you're amazing at and how you thrive. How about that?
That's true. You could tell me all nice things. That would be lovely.
I can tell you both. Both.
Yes. So when you say that, mm, as there was something I just came to mind quickly. I'm seeing it like as like for me, like I feel like everybody's off when there's a full moon. Like that's the only way I can kind of describe what I'm getting from it. Like there's more energy in, and I don't understand how people can think that something that hangs in our atmosphere can't be powerful enough to control the tides and, you know, our feelings.
Mhm.
So it certainly must be somewhat down the line, like with the gene keys, astrology is just a little more deep, I guess, is it on a deeper level? So
Well, I feel like the Gene Keys is more accessible, like because astrology and because I've recently played a bit in things like human design and just these different that are based on astrology and where the planets are when you're born and all these things. And sometimes there's a lot of jargon around it that is just like what I don't get what you're saying.
okay,
All
you
I
just
know is
don't beat around the bush, kind of.
that's it. Like I feel like the Gene Keys is just very direct and it says like
Okay.
this, like this is what you're going to struggle with over and over and over again in this area. Like this is what you will attract over and over and over again. Or I'll say, this is what you'll have to overcome in your life over and over and over again. And then this is what like that shadow will, the gift it will bring. And I feel like, doesn't everyone want to know what they're gifted at? And doesn't everyone want to not, I know not everyone wants to see their shadow, but I like to know what is it
Yes,
that I don't see that I can
me
bring it to
too.
the light. So, I'm not in the darkness anymore. And it's just really straightforward. Like, it's not like, oh, let's contemplate this. It's like your shadow is seriousness. Your shadow is selfishness. Your
Yeah,
shadow is what vanity, right? And you go,
okay.
okay, I get that, right?
It doesn't leave you kind of not knowing if you're right about what they said or not.
Not really.
I guess there's nothing worse really than leaving your therapist's office. This could be an example, and they saying something from their college book or whatever, because I find some of them are so by the book. It's so like sad, really. They're not helping
Mm.
anybody. Certainly not me. When I was doing cognitive behavioral therapy, I was doing it for like a year. I'm not saying that it didn't help with my way of thinking and breaking things up rather than trying to think at all at once, but it's it did help, I guess, me try to just keep everything like in different groups rather than mélanger in French. We say all, because then that's how I used to panic attacks. That's the way of thinking, I guess. So if ever I have a chance, and this is something that you can do virtually, your courses and things that you offer like that.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of studying to be like a guide of the gene keys, like get an official certification in guiding people because right now it's just been a passion for about 4 years where I've just studied it on my own. But I do one readings for people. So if they come to me, then I just give them a real basic rundown of a few things that they can work with. And Gene Keys is an individual journey. It's sort of like you go on your own path with it. I just try and make it accessible for people because sometimes if the chart comes out, it looks like all these numbers and these words, and people go, I don't know. I don't know. I just see. And then I try and go, oh, this is kind of what this means. And this is how you can look at it. And then people walk away and go, okay, I know where to start now. I know if I
Yeah.
want to go down that track.
Yeah,
So
because
I want to work with people to help them understand it, I guess. Yeah.
I like that because I never understood going to a therapist or voodoo or whatever you're going to go to for advice. Essentially,
Mm,
you're asking them to teach you how to think right again or to break up your thoughts so you're not so tight and wound up. But I definitely am interested. I'm interested. So I'm nervous, but I'm interested.
yeah, it is one of
That's
those. Anytime we grow,
I
right?
was nervous when I started this, and it's really only two people, but like behind their own camera. The rest for me is, if I think about it as the big picture, like I used to do with a lot of anxiety issues, and I look at the analytics of how many people downloaded that episode and so on, it's a little bit like, wow, because I kind of just
Yeah.
did this to be a hobby, and the numbers were pulled last week by a pro, and he said, no, no, you have to monetize your things. You're getting views, you're getting downloaded, you're getting subscribers, and you're getting ratings on some of the sites, like, and once Spotify and Apple pick it up, like there's one site, Podbean, that I use, and it kind of just branches it out. So
Mm,
it's very healing for me to bring on people and let them teach others that, even if you're on the other side of the world, people have the same problems, man. Like we're all fighting to stay alive. That's really the end game, and to enjoy it along the ride.
mm,
But so on your list here too, you said you love to travel, and I actually loved traveling when I did it. I used to get a job, save money, travel, quit, get a job, travel, quit. Or either that, I had a couple of good jobs where I could always go back because I was good at it and they had a lot of staff.
mm.
Those years, it's different. Like, I don't have any regret for that. What was your favorite place that you visited so far? Besides where you met your husband, of course.
Oh my gosh. To be honest, I love all the places I travel to. And I have this thing about traveling where, and I'm sure it drives my husband a little bit crazy, but I love to go to new places that I've never been. So
Yeah,
because
me
we've
too.
been to a lot, I'm always like, where can we go that we've never been? And if you didn't know, Australia is really far away from everywhere. So it's
Yeah,
like anytime looking where to go, it's like it's so far away. But to be
that's true.
honest with you, I haven't been there yet. But next week, next Thursday, I fly to South Africa for 2 weeks. And that has been a trip that I have been waiting for many years. I have been
Uh,
so excited, Cape Town, so excited to see those animals in the wild. So I
that's
feel
it.
like
Yeah,
that's going to be.
the safari. That I think that's on my bucket list. It may be down, 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 but because part of it scares me too, which is why I don't want to move to Australia. I don't like spiders. I don't like crawly things. And I certainly don't like them when they're the size of a house.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's misinformation, but if you don't like bugs, maybe
Misinformation, not
Australia
the size
isn't
of a
the
house. Yeah. Less.
yeah, I know. I'm just trying to be funny, but it's true. Like I see some of the shows, and I'm like, oh my god, how can they like? Not, but obviously, in the city, it's not like they're flying around or whatever it is, like crawling around. You know, I follow a DJ on TikTok from Melbourne who spins, and he's like us we're doing now. When I get up at 7:30 in the morning, he's still spinning, and he's in Melbourne, so. I used to watch him, but after the time change, I just can't keep it up. So, but yeah, he's a good DJ. I'll have to tag you on his page. You guys could. Do you like to go to parties like that, like with big DJs? Yeah, he's a good guy.
Not really. Not really. I mean, I don't mind. I've got a friend that's so into it. So I feel like if you sent it to me, I'd send it to her and she'd be all over it. She'd probably know who he is already. But so I'll send it
Yeah,
on to her.
he's handsome
Yeah.
too. He's not too bad on
See.
the eyes. that's that's always that's the blonde thing, eh?
Yes,
So
so.
okay, so I think my favorite place that I would recommend to you to go is Peru.
Oh, I haven't been there. I haven't been
I lived
there.
I lived for 7 months in so I was in Trujillo, and we went to the city in Lima, like back and forth, like I don't know, like $20 American by a bus that goes out of the village, and you get to see the poverty in between the cities by bus, but people just will take their shirt off their back for you and like I was new there and I had met somebody, so I went and I just it made me stand back and say, "Holy crap, you know, we're so blessed in our countries to have what we have because they have a lot of like they have a nice life. I don't consider Peru third world. Some people do in certain parts of it, of course, but they're lovely and they are very intelligent and great at cooking. The food is just to die for. If you're a foodie like me, you will you will like it. And it's quick food, but it's so flavorful and it's very unusual because we don't have maids. Obviously, we have to pay maids here like $20 an hour. Down there, you pay like $100 American maybe for 2 months because our money is triple there.
Mm.
So I know Australian money is pretty high up on the currency, right? So you guys would have a good time in Peru because your money is worth quite a bit there.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now
Amazing.
if you want to go for Starbucks or like McDonald's, you're gonna pay like $50 in their money, which is ridiculous. But if you want to go for like a whole chicken and French fries at a Peruvian restaurant that has it's so much better, it's like €2 if you're lucky, or $3 or $4 American, like something ridiculous like
Amazing.
that. Yeah, so
Mm.
yeah, I really enjoyed that. Where else? I like going to Germany. It is beautiful, and I went to Austria as well as Berlin. I went because when I went to Amsterdam, I never had tried any drugs or anything at that point, and I wasn't smoking pot or anything. So I was kind of, I don't know, I just didn't really feel like it was the right destination for me in Europe. So we took Ryanair, I think it was, for €50 to Berlin, and then we had a great time. Like they have the most advanced subway system in the world I've ever seen. And then in Austria, because it's all like small opera houses where you can buy like tickets for very little, and then you can go for a very romantic date there. And sometimes you can hear it when somebody opens a door, you know, and I don't know, it's lovely. And the dining on the streets, like you would, if I think if I would recommend it, I would say you and check it out, Austria.
Okay, we'll do.
Do you
I
like,
think we'll go there for the snow. We wanted to go there to like to Kidsville and go snowboarding.
oh yeah? Well, it's a little bit more expensive, obviously, because it's the euro for us,
Mm.
but they have very nice nightclubs for gay men, and it's very like you're this, you're that. Like it's lovely. Like usually you knock on the door and somebody comes and I'm like, "Hi, I'm here for the party." They don't even
So
leave the door
fun.
unlocked. I believe it was in Berlin, wasn't it? Or Amsterdam. At Berlin. We saw some kind of burlesque show. Two men in behind the bar showering or something like that. Oh
Oh,
my
wow.
goodness. Back in the 20s, when I'm in my 20s, yeah, things were a bit more fun then.
I see.
But I
It's so
look at
different.
it now. I look at it now and I say, "Oh my gosh, I would never have done that now."
Yeah. Fair enough.
Like
Fair
it's
enough.
I see what you're saying when you say, "Oh," when you look at your family, then you're like, "Yeah, no, I wouldn't trade it."
Mm, mm,
It's so much
agreed.
fun to have kids and grandmothers and all that to call and I think that's why I got a little bit more into my social media thing is to just try and put a smile on somebody's face if they're going to scroll down through my page at least once or twice, and I'm not
Mm,
afraid to post honestly. Maybe you don't like it, but some people might, and some people might understand it, and you may not, or you may take offense. And then I'm very good at explaining things. So when I write a letter and I need to get something done, nobody fights.
mm,
But I'm the kind of person that'll go, I'll go above and beyond to get things done if I can. But like this, for instance, I had to move because of my feet, because here we have all stairs in our 3-story house. And it's sad. There's memories here, of course, our wedding and all that. But like, what it is. It's like you move to a new country. And I always feel like when I move to a new country that you get to start fresh. And even though we're only moving across the street, it's a fresh start. So I guess
mm,
that's the kind of things that like I need to try and learn to focus on myself as well. Like whenever I decide to, I'm going to ask you probably like not on the podcast one day to recommend what should I do to get into yoga slowly, even though because I'm overweight now, so 20 pounds overweight.
mm.
But
Just because you mentioned that, it's funny because you can start anywhere, like with yoga. Like there's yin yoga, there's gentle yoga. Just get yourself in the room. It doesn't really matter what kind of yoga you do.
is quiet yoga better than for letting your mind just kind of you numb your brain and let it just kind of try to breathe it all out a bit, I guess, is what I'm trying to I remember of that part about it. Breathing technique is so important. And I'm setting a gym up downstairs in the new place, so hopefully I'll have room for that. And it's next to my office, so maybe we'll have yoga together on Zoom. I don't know. You could teach me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'd love to.
you're an only child, right?
Mhm.
You're an only child?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was, and then my dad remarried after my mom passed. So I
yeah.
kind of
Because
get
your mom, right?
when I was 4, yeah. She had a brain aneurysm. My dad got together and got married, I guess, after 5 or 6 years. I don't think he was ever as in love with anybody than he thought he was with my mom until he met my stepmom, and now I have a sister because of that, and I love it. But I don't know how that shaped me, Like I always try to figure out what was the trauma that started my anxiety and my restlessness, my worries at night. And when I started writing the book, Sean, I have to be honest that there's a lot of things that I write when I'm in the morning time and I get in my groove of writing and then I go back the next day and I read it and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's deep, Like so that's the thing like about this like any journey with your being or your wholeness of the technologies that we have now to be able to collaborate together on different theories. I mean, I never heard about gene keys, never.
Mhm.
So I'm interested to read up more on that, so I can do one episode maybe sometime and just let you have the floor. I wouldn't mind it. It'd be fun to do the gene keys and have like two more good guests that I know are fun and open-minded to things like that, and just get everybody's, overall feeling of it. Because, I mean, do you think that we all understand it, our gene keys, when we figure, like when we're told what it is? Do you find most people understand it?
Well, I think a lot of people when I mean the experience
Or
that
are
I've
they
had
upset?
with
Yeah, I guess that's the other question. Like, are they
say it
happy,
again.
relieved, stressed?
I think for a lot of people it's relief. It's like taking a deep breath and just being like, oh, this makes sense. Like, and some people can feel overwhelmed by it, but I always try and say like you just it's just about awareness. It's like if you never knew you had a habit and someone just told you, did you know you have that habit? And then you start to notice that you have that habit. At first, it's overwhelming because it's just like, fuck, I didn't even know I had a habit. So now I know I have a habit. And now
Well,
I'm like,
like a tick,
yeah,
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 yeah. But mm, it's like a big sigh of relief. Like if I say, like, oh, you feel best in your body when you're around other people. Like, and that's how people feel. If they really feel that deep inside them, then for them, it's a relief. Or if I say to people, like, because it says in their profile, like you're bound to always change and move. So you'll go through like many careers and you'll bounce through many different things. And that's actually how you're designed to be. And
yeah,
then they'll feel a sense of relief because they'll go, oh my God, everyone always told me like you're not stable and you don't care, you don't keep a job when they're not designed to be that way. So I think I always try and encourage people that they're finding out these beautiful things that make them unique and they want to lean into what they're gifted about, like not focus on the shadow. Like the shadows are
mm,
great to know so that you can see them. But the point is not to focus on the shadow, is to see what is the gift that you got. And we can't get gifts unless we look at our shadows. Like, that with anxiety, right? Like, it's like, it's been
yeah.
probably a huge stumbling block, but now look at you running a podcast and it's been one of the greatest gifts. So we can't ever always just not want to look at things. It's like the most beautiful gift I feel like anyone could give themselves if they're open to that. Like if
Yeah,
you're not, then just go do your own thing. But if you're open to it, I think it's amazing. It's so
I am.
cool.
I certainly am. I'm intrigued on this, and it's funny that you explain it like that because, how can I, like, through the book, it's similar because I'm like, you get in this zone of writing when you're working on a paper, like for college, even when you're writing a book, and I'm writing it as though I'm saying it to everybody, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the editor lets me print some of the things that I wrote. But like, no, not like swearing or anything, but like just total transparency, really trying my best to be that way for it. And I'm just wondering, if I were to learn more about this, how much more I could remember and open up, and try to figure out if I'm on the right track myself. Even some days I don't know. Like right now, I'm saying I've been a bit more picky because I'm looking for another job like that brings in extra income until everything is monetized or whatever it's going to be. And if it's just self-sufficient and it covers the website costs and stuff, I'm happy with it because I'm having fun doing it. I'm meeting lovely people like you from, all walks of life, and I'm learning knowledge and sharing my perspective and knowledge that I have. I always have an aha moment, but there was one a minute ago when you said, like it gives people like the purpose to, like, that's the thing. Like, I know there's a shadow, but you have to face it sometimes, even though you can't really. Like, I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say here. Like, for me, like for instance, I want to do the genetic markup to try to figure out, like, to narrow down what kind of ailment's gonna kill me. And my husband's like, I don't want that. Now you can
Mm.
do that, right? Like, in Toronto, there's a hospital called Science and Humans, and they're doing a testosterone replacement therapy, TRT. I don't know if you've heard much about that.
Oh, no. Yeah.
It's like, when men get older, we lose a bit more of our calcium in our bones. And like, I don't know, I guess it just helps. But whichever direction I find I end up going in, I end up back in the same circle of things. So that's why when I was talking to you earlier, I was like, there's certain things that you keep coming back to. And that's one of them, like helping people. But
Mm,
again, I had to learn at some point that there's only so much that you can give before you lose your own self and your own things, and it affects your life and the people around you. So, like from the beginning of this podcast with you, one of the things that I've saw is you've, learned a lot of knowledge educational wise, and I didn't go that direction. I don't know, I just don't mind sitting and like taking it all in, but I've learned a lot of things from the people that I've helped than my therapists. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Like in my head, I feel like I learned more from that person, even if they treated me poorly and we were friends or whatever, because of what's going on in their lives or what they're on or whatever. Back then, in my 20s, before I gave up all the bullshit, and it all lines up. It's very similar, like to you, as where you were thinking, like, what am I doing here with these young girls? I have this sense of I don't know why. I have this overwhelming sense that I have to share this story with other young people because I just don't want them to have to go through the hoops that I went through when I tried to fix this. You can't fix it, guys. You can make it better. Like, I believe that we can make it better. I think that we all have natural curiosity, natural anxieties that are not always bad. I mean, the problem with many people now is that they don't want to feel at all, and they go on all of these meds, like I was talking about earlier, and they never understand how they actually feel because they never felt, they've been medicated all their lives and they've never actually felt it. What it is to love, what it is to fall in love, or to have a baby, or make a family, or to get an award, or make a speech, be recognized, or meet your husband while he's buying cotton candy, whatever. There's just so many things that like I've lived in San Francisco, for instance. I just packed up and went there. Like I always kept going back to Toronto, but every time I hit the runway, Shauna, I swear my anxiety would start as soon as the plane would land and I was in the airport. So there's just I guess there's some things that you go through that are, it's like a big city of constant reminder for me. I don't know that I ran away from it, but I knew that I wasn't strong enough to stay away from the things that I was involved in using in my 20s. And then I was in my 30s and I was like, I'm not going to do this in my 40s. And I promised myself and I didn't. One day I just woke up and that was it. With me, it's like that. Like I remember I woke up 8 years ago and I said, I never liked smoking cigarettes and I never tried them until I was 28 years old. And I woke up, I think this was 8 years ago. So I would have been 32 then. And I looked at my husband. I said, I'm done with that. Sorry. He said, okay, well, me too. And we never looked back at that. So for me, like not smoking means not smoking anything. So you have to find alternatives for everything. But I know that I'd love to have so much more time to ask you questions about some of these things on your favorites list. I can't keep you here all day. You have things to do. Is there anything in particular that I left out that was more important for you, or do you have a free meditation awaken your intuition sign up on the website? I don't know if you
No.
wanted to explain a little bit what people will get from that, because I would love to encourage people to sign up with you. I will sign up with you
I,
myself, I promise.
I think. like what you just said that sort of hit the nail on the head for me. And when I moved to Australia, I studied a lot of things, and it's only been sort of in the last year that I've worked specifically as an embodiment sort of mentor. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's getting it's not getting off the medication because there's a time and place for everything. I believe that, and I think that
Yeah.
everyone is individual, and there's no judgment whether you're on or off it or what. Like it
Oh
is
no,
what it is.
I would
But
never. I know. Yeah. You know what? I'm happy you said that because I don't want anybody to ever be ashamed that you have to take meds because there are chemical imbalances, and that's why some people have, really hard problems with menopause, with mental health, and they sometimes tie in together. I know for a lot of my girlfriends, it can be one and the same, the feelings sometimes. I don't know, like,
what
go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say about like the key is to like feel it all, is to like be in the body and experience all of life, like not just the things that we want to experience, but like all of life, and like that being okay, like that being a really beautiful thing, that the darkness is what leads to the light. And I think that that's been my experience. Is I've experienced a lot of darkness in my life, and a lot of people look at me and they don't think that. They're like, you, and I'm like, yes, I actually have, but I've also, it's what has created the capacity for me to be in the light. And so I think
Yeah.
everything that I do is trying to bring people towards, look, we've been through that period, and also there's another side to it, and it's all okay. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, it's all good. And we're all
Yeah.
on this perfect journey. It's what it is. So yeah, if I can help support anyone in that way, I'm keen. Just reach out. So yeah.
Yeah, guys, definitely reach out. Shauna has a lot of talents, and I think that her family is very lucky to have her. And I'm thrilled that you were able to move to Australia. And I guess, in a way, you have taken some of the harder jobs, we'll say, some of your training that you must do in order to finish to be a social worker and so on. But what do you think the one thing is that you take from all of that and you still use it now in your everyday life to keep balanced?
The one thing, I take ownership for all of
Even
my
be
life.
food.
I
I
don't.
mean, I don't, some people love to cook, or there's little things like gardening or paddle boat, of a paddle, yeah, paddle board, or, but I don't know, like, what's your favorite thing that, I'm trying to think now. What's a good question? I think the first question was too broad. I should bring it down a little bit, unless you have something in mind. Like, let's say, what's your favorite dish for food?
Gosh, okay.
And and do you cook well?
Okay. Do I cook well? I cook okay. Like I cook okay. I'm not a great cook. My favorite dishes definitely has to be anything Mexican. I love Mexican food. I love tacos. I love fajitas. I love burritos. I love anything Mexican. So we're always eating Mexican every week in our house.
Yeah.
And I love a good pasta dish. I don't necessarily make a good pasta dish, but I love going out to Italian and having a good pizza or a good pasta.
I
So it's Italian or Mexican for me all the way.
So I've been to Australia. Sorry, not Australia. I've been to Mexico.
Yeah.
I've been to Veradero, Cuba. I've been to Mexico for, what was the event that we went to? I think we were in Cancun at the hotel. Yes, in Cuba. I went to Cuba. I had my appendix set while I was there. Oh God,
Mm.
yeah. So I've had some adventures too. I'm sure we could definitely, but for me, I cook Italian pretty good, but my husband is a pro at Italian.
Mm.
I'll ask him. I'm sure you're on the other side of the world, so we'll give you the recipe for sauce.
Yeah, just send me a dish. Just send me a
Yeah,
dish. It'll get here in a
and
few
encrypt
days.
an email.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know what? I think that I'm going to let people decide, which they always do. I'm sure that everybody's enjoying listening as much as I am having the chat with you, but there's just so many things to talk about in an hour. It's not as long as you really need when you have somebody with your, background and in different things that can help you really balance out your life. And I'm happy that you were able to do that over such a long period of time. And now you truly feel like you're in your right zone. Australia does that to a lot of people. So it's the men, it's the accent. I'm sure it's the accent.
That's pretty good.
Maybe it's the fairy floss.
Maybe it's fairy floss.
Maybe. Okay, so Shauna, if there's anything else that you would like me to add for people to grab, but they have your email and I've put your email as well as your contact website page and so on. And her social media is attached to the website. So check Shauna out, book her services, go down to Australia and meet her at that beautiful resort on her website. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. I wish that I could take the time and go with my husband for some therapy for love, but I'm sure I'd be terrified of the spiders. So you'll have to convince me, Shauna. I'll just come with
Okay.
imagine me in flip flops with my socks wrapped around my jogging pants so that nothing can get in when I get off the plane. Okay. I'll
Oh,
let you go. It was
okay.
lovely talking with you.
You too. You too.
I hope
Thanks,
that
Adam. I appreciate
I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll stay in touch. It's nice to meet you, of
it.
course, and I give your my best to your family.
Will do. You too. Ciao, ciao. Thanks.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.